Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, my name is Sylvia and I make videos on planning with the occasional review. Today's video is day 6. Day 6 of 1 month in my Bujo challenge, and today's focus is going to be a RAM dump, or what most people refer to as a brain dump. The best way to do a brain dump, or what this website is calling a RAM dump, is to use a trigger list. Now, this is the most comprehensive trigger list I have ever found, so I highly recommend using this one from this website. I will try to remember to link it down below, but if I don't and you remind me nicely, I will definitely do so. This website calls their brain dumps RAM dumps, and they give a definition for the name. If you want to move from feeling overwhelmed to feeling at peace and in control, here's a tool to help you get started. It's called a RAM dump. RAM is the memory in a computer, in this case, your brain, that holds on to all those sticky notes or incompletions in your life. An incompletion is anything you pay attention or give thought to that needs to be different than it is right now. Here are some examples of types of incompletions. Things you intend to do but have not started. That is me. Things you have started but have not completed. Also me. Things you have completed but have not acknowledged that it's complete. Good enough. So that's also me, because as a writer, I tend to, hold on to something instead of saying, okay, this is ready for a critique partner or an alpha reader, and I hold on to it and say, no, I'm not ready yet, when it probably is good enough to go ahead and send out at this point. And the last one, agrees promises you've made but have not kept, which I think is a very important one, especially since we're in a pandemic and it's really easy to just ignore the world right now and just social distance. And so this first page goes into detail about how you can download your RAM or your RAM dump, and using index cards is something that they do recommend. Of course, I'm using a bullet journal, so there are several different ways that you can go ahead and do a RAM dump in your bullet journal. The first one is to just go ahead and write it all out on your monthly log. So that's certainly something you could do here. You could just go through the trigger list that they provide for you and just write everything out here. I personally don't recommend that, because you're probably going to end up with a lot of forwards, since there are a lot of projects, particularly for me as a writer, that I could say write a book, but there's a lot of steps in order to check that off. So it makes no sense to write down that project here, because it's probably not going to get checked off, at least not in a month. Maybe if I was doing NaNoWriMo, or I decided to do it for April's Camp Nano, that's a possibility, but that would only be the first draft. It wouldn't be a second draft or an editing or even the revising process. Another place you could go ahead and put some of your RAM dump would be on a weekly. Not everyone uses a weekly in their bullet journal or in their planning system at all. So that might be or might not be something for you to do. This one is broken down for every single week in the month of March. So that's a nice place to put it, because you can delegate it for each week or a specific week in the month, especially if it's a task, like I mentioned, writing a book that's going to take several steps. You could mark it down for every single week out of the month. You could certainly put it on your dailies. However, I highly doubt that you want to put everything that you're going to be RAM dumping onto a daily page. If you wanted to, you could certainly go ahead and as they come to you, put them where you think they need to go. Another place to put them would be in the back. So for instance, I started a page here at brain dump, or you could put RAM dump in this case, and then I put today's date so that I could just use it. That's a Saturday, an S for Saturday, and not a 5. It totally looks like a 5 now that I look at it. But this is a great way to have just a running task list that you just work off of. And you could just take the task list that's kind of, when I tend to do a brain dump, it's chicken scratch. You probably wouldn't be able to read it at all. And then I usually take it and put it where it needs to go, whether it's on the monthly, the weekly, the daily, or it seems like there's a lot of the similar tasks, so I make it its own collection or its own action list, which at some point I'm going to do a video on the difference between the two. Now, I don't think I'm actually going to do this, which it's perfectly fine if you're trying to just use one notebook to go ahead and put your RAM dump back here. It was just something I was letting you know that you could do. You could also go ahead and put it on your future log and kind of delegate when you want to do it in that way. But I recommend using a separate sheet of paper. Right now I have a pad next to me and I like this one because it's divided down the center. And I usually just do my RAM dump on this so that I can flip from page to page and put the tasks where they need to go, because usually they go in multiple places. Now this website recommends that you go through this trigger list twice, once for personal and then a second time for work. I recommend the same. Sometimes personal and work, it's a thin line and they kind of cross over. So you have to make those decisions for yourself. I appreciate this trigger list because it's very comprehensive, and I think it's way better than the trigger list that's in the Getting Things Done book by David Allen. This is written by a corporate man for the corporate world. You notice that right away when he tries to say that you should delegate things to your secretary. And in my case, in a lot of people's cases, I'm my secretary. So it doesn't really work, especially if you're a parent, which I'm not. It's hard to kind of take those things that he says and apply them to your everyday life. Or maybe it's not even work. It might just be a hobby that you're trying to organize. I find that this list, it has 31 questions and many triggers for some of those questions. It's a lot more helpful, and of course you don't have to have a corporate job. You could again just be doing a hobby that you want to start. Maybe it is writing a book, or you want to start to learn how to brush letter or do some kind of watercoloring. This is a really great list for any of that. So like I mentioned, on this page they recommend that you use index cards so that you can categorize things a little bit better. But if you're familiar with the bullet journal and collections or action lists from the Getting Things Done method, I would recommend that over having to carry a bunch of index cards, especially if you are taking your planner with you on the go and you want to have one less thing to carry. On the second page, it talks about what you do after the download, and it really goes into something similar to the Getting Things Done method. It's talking about the 4 Ds, which are do, delegate, delay, and dump. And then it has a little picture down here. I just dropped my water on it, my tea, sorry. A little picture down here on how the cycle of completion works. I printed this off on my HP, which is a black and white laser printer, but it does come in color. So here is what David Allen uses. It's the workflow diagram, and it's just about taking every task, especially ones that you're not sure about, and going through this little system here to help you figure out whether you need to do it or delegate it or defer it. Same thing here. Then we go into the first page, and I thought we would go through the first page together so that you can kind of see what this is about and how I kind of use it without actually writing down anything for right now. So they are titling this the Incompletions Trigger Questions. So question 1 is list projects started and not completed. This is really great when you feel like you're being haunted by all of these projects that you've started, but you just don't seem to have time for. And one of the best things you can do is sit down and make a trigger list of all of those things, and also think about whether they're things that you can put off until later, things that you should do now, or things that just don't apply anymore. So it gives you a bunch of bullet points underneath it. What's on your desk? So this is really nice for people like myself. I actually off to the left have a unboxing video I need to do for your creative studio. It was sitting at the mail for a while, and then I hurt my wrist, so I ended up starting this series for the bullet journal, 1 month in my Bujo challenge, and I haven't yet made that video, and I need to do it. So sometimes I do leave things right on my desk so that I am reminded that it's something that needs to get done. What's in your drawers? So when I hurt my wrist, it was hurt, but I physically, everything else was fine, and I wanted to be busy. I was used to being very busy writing. Since I couldn't, I went ahead and I went through my drawers and I organized them, and I put a really cool picture up on Instagram if you'd like to take a look. My information is down below. And that was something that I could do because it really bothered me opening this huge drawer I have. The drawer actually takes up the entire, almost the entire width of my desk. And I don't know, it pained me to open that drawer and look at all of the crap. So I actually even bought some stuff off of Amazon, and maybe I'll insert a picture here. And they were just these really beautiful clear organizers that I think you probably use in your kitchen, but I used them in my desk just to get organized. What's on your floor and under your desk? Sometimes people keep files or things like that they need to put away that they haven't. What's behind your door? Sometimes people do keep things behind the door. Actually, behind my office door is my whiteboard. And sometimes I make it a Kanban board. So that's really a good trigger for me. What's in your briefcase or your bags? So I haven't updated my library bag. The other day I did go to the library and I forgot to put a flash drive in there. That's what I use in order to print at the library, and I was so annoyed. No, my library is really great, and they'll actually give you one to borrow, and then you just return it when you're done printing, but I like to have my own. Maybe for you it's about spring's around the corner and you want to go ahead and change up your bags, and that might also mean changing up the color or the style of your wallet, and that's just something you need to sit down and do for 20 minutes while you watch an episode of, I don't know, Pretty Little Liars, because that's what I'm watching right now. I'm on season 6. I know, I go through them so quickly. What's in storage boxes? Currently, I don't have anything, but there's probably people that do. What's in the stack of paper on your credenza or filing cabinet? So this is another one that I think about my inbox, because I do have an inbox on top of my filing cabinet, and I usually put any kind of bills, letters, notes, or anything that I end up getting. Sometimes my niece, like for Valentine's Day, she gave me the list for the names of all of the kids in her class, because she'll lose that. So she's like, here, Auntie, keep this. And I just sent her like a snap shot of it, because she forgets to do that. I'm like, just take a screenshot and then you'll always have it in your iPad. So those types of things, they sit in my inbox and I need to file them away. What's on scraps of paper? Business cards and receipts. I used to be notorious for writing on the back of receipts. As a writer, I would just write on everything before I started to really carry a notebook, whether it was small or like something like this, with me at all times. At the beginning of the year, I decided to go ahead and take this big box of all of those post-it notes and little scraps of paper that I had, and I had made a decision that I would sit down and I would start to take those and put them wherever they needed to go. So, and for instance, if it was a quote, I do have a file just for quotes, like an online one for Google Docs, where I just write down quotes, whether they were from me or some quote that I heard on a TV show. So I've slowly been doing that, and I'm almost completely done. And it's been years since I've had that. So I'm excited to say that pretty soon that's going to be complete. What's on your to-do list? This is like another thing I mentioned. Tomorrow's video, day 7, will be about my reflections, because Sunday for me is the end of the week. I know it's the beginning of the week for others. So that's really great. Maybe you need to sit down and write a reflections list for every week or at the end of every month to help you stay organized. What's on your post-it notes around your office or on the refrigerator? So I keep a ton of post-its still, even though I have a bullet journal. It's just the thing I do. And they're just like little reminders right next to my, my monitor. Just so that I remember to do some things. Also, I do keep, like I showed in the last video, a menus list on my refrigerator that I always keep up with. And I also write down like green beans at the beginning of the week if that's a vegetable that is going to go bad soon and I need to incorporate it into a meal. What's in your meeting notes? This is a good one because I just had 2 meetings recently, one with Lauren. So I have given her her own actions list where I can write some things down. So right now, Lauren and I have a Facebook group together called the Writers Table, and Lauren lives in Texas. I live in Colorado. And so we tend to have like a little, sometimes it's a video chat. Recently, it's just been a quick little phone call, and we just talk to each other. And this last meeting was about NaNoWriMo happening in April and whether she was going to do it, whether I was going to do it, and if we were going to do any kind of freebies for the writers table. So we kind of collab in that way, and it's just easy if I have a bunch of questions to ask her to check off the list. What's in your email box that needs your attention? So this is something I've gotten better at. I used to be horrible about it, but I've been doing so many more collabs and talking to people through email that I'm really great about checking that pretty much every morning. If not in the morning, by midday, I have answered my emails. And the last one is what's on your calendar from previous weeks that did not get handled, family and work calendar. So that is a great one because it kind of goes with to-do list. Again, that might be something that you put on a reflection for the week or the month. We'll see how mine looks tomorrow. So I was going back and forth between this one and this one because the questions are different, but the trigger list for each of the questions are the same. So the first question was list projects started and not completed. The second one is list projects not yet started. So those are 2 really great questions for work, also for personal. Number 3, what projects are completed that need to be acknowledged as completed? And I mentioned as a writer, I have a lot of projects that could probably go out to critique partners or alpha readers, and I'm just like so nervous. I keep trying to make them better, and I probably just need somebody's opinion on what works and what doesn't. Number 4, what commitments or promises have you made and not kept? Do you need to follow through or renegotiate? What do you need to clarify or resolve? So that's a really great question, especially during a pandemic. If you work and you have coworkers, that is something that you might need to have like an actions list for each of the coworkers if you have to work together on group projects. If you're someone that is a mother and you need to work with either coaches or teachers with your children, at their school, it's another really great question. So that's why I really appreciate this trigger list. It's not just for the corporate world. Number 5, are there people waiting for you to get back to them? That's an important question. I hate having to wait on people, so I try really hard not to make them wait on me. Number 6, are there people you are waiting to hear back from? Again, this goes to the David Allen waiting on list, which I do have one in the back of my bullet journal. Number 7, what do you need to research or look into? So I do have an at research actions list. Most people might call this a collections, but I like calling it an actions list, so I remember to make it actionable and look things up. Sometimes it's for my book. Sometimes I hear a phrase or I hear about something on the news that I don't know much about, and I'm like, I probably should know about that. So I write it down in research. And number 8, are there professionals or support staff waiting to hear back from you about anything? Lawyer, accountant, consultants, administrative assistant, other. So this is really great. So at some point in our lives, we probably have to get back to someone about our taxes, or if you're having issues with, I don't know, your neighbor, or you're getting a divorce, you might have to refer to a lawyer and get back to them with certain paperwork. I remember when I was going to college, I went on a Native American waiver, and I had to wait to get the paper that said, yes, she's Native American, and I had to go pick it up, and then I had to go ahead and fax that to the college in order to even get started. So at some point in our lives, this applies, and it's not always all of the time. And of course, there are 31. I mean, you can see just with this one page, all of the things that probably came to mind as I was reading it. But there are 31 questions with several triggers on each question, pretty much, that are going to help you get all of that stuff out of your head, all of that RAM downloaded, and I really appreciate this list. You will see after I do my brain dump tomorrow what I went ahead and did and how well this worked for me. I'll talk more about that in day 7, which is my reflection day. All right, so that's everything. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I hope that this was helpful. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.